Hey everyone, it's Sean Gibbons from the Communications Network. How are you? Hope you're doing well on what is, where I am in Washington, D.C., an incredibly cold day. We're going to start off with a couple things as folks come into the room. The first is our two-word check-in. This is obviously our first webinar of the year. So if you've been with us in the past, you know how this works. You're going to type in your name. There you go, Sarah. You're going to type in your name, your location, where you're at, Dayton, and then how are you? Just in 2 words. Keep it simple if you don't mind. I'll model it for y'all, and then go ahead and join us. Simrit in meh. Okay. Meh's not 2 words, my friend. See if you can find a positive one in there too, because I know we got a lot of good stuff up in front of us. While you all are starting to see this kind of waterfall, which is always my favorite thing. Look at this in Tucson, all over the place. I don't have my specs on, gang, so I'm not going to try to name check everybody. But suffice to say, we are happy and grateful y'all are here for the next hour. And if you can spare it, we're going to have office hours on the back end for the next 90 minutes. We're going to have a chance to visit with Leo Chen, who was with us over in Kansas City at ComNet. And we're going to spend the next little while talking about curiosity. But before we do that, I have a couple of updates for y'all from the network, and then we'll jump right into it. First one is this. Chances are, if you're a network member, I hope you know about it, and even more, I hope you've availed yourself of this. We've been operating a Slack channel for folks. We just launched a fun channel for folks to kind of get silly and share just things of inspiration and things that help them put a smile on their face. But there's over 2,600 of us up on here helping each other out each and every day. You have a question, inevitably, the hive mind of the network comes back with a whole bunch of good answers or suggestions, whatever it might be. So please do, if you're a network member, make sure you're logged in and taking part with us. All right, let's keep going forward. My friend Kareem, if you don't mind moving to the next. We're going to play a couple of videos. These are two of the programs that we run in addition to these webinars, and obviously ComNet, the annual conference that we host, in the Jones Award, which I hope you all know about. But as it's saying up on the screen, the idea here is the network's gotten kind of big. And so how can we create spaces that are especially dedicated to folks who are going to be most helpful to you? We all want to be helpful to you. We all want to see you succeed. But sometimes it's just good to know somebody who has your job or works on your issue or maybe shares your identity, but lives outside of the four walls where you work. And that's what Circles is all about. If you're a network member, you are welcome to take part. Let's move forward. Let's talk about locals real quick. And we have a whole bunch of them meeting both this month and early in February. So if you're feeling kind of after the holidays, or maybe it's cold, you kind of felt like you've been hermiting up a little bit, being indoors. If you're in one of those parts of the country, which is everywhere right now, where it's frigid, this is a chance to maybe get out. These local groups, as it's saying up here on your screen, the whole idea is just get to know your neighbors. And you can see here what we got cooking coming up, a whole bunch of stuff out in Portland, that's in Oregon, down there in North Carolina, at least for me, from where I'm at, Atlanta, Kansas City. We're lovely to see those folks carrying on the legacy from ComNet of building a local group there. Detroit, and over there doing this backwards, but our friends in New York are gathering up as well. So if you live in those areas, they gather up regularly. Please do. It's free and open to all. You don't have to be a network member to participate, but if you find yourself in those neighborhoods, hook up with those folks. They're good people. All right, let's roll forward if we could. This is another thing. Oh, this is a new announcement I get to tell you all about. So if you're a network member, we hope this is going to be tremendously helpful to you. Our colleague Amy has been working diligently along with Tristan Mahabir for months now to build a brand new members portal. And inside that portal, we've got this brand new members directory. And as you can see from the screen, you're going to suddenly be able to find that needle in a haystack. If you want to know, say, where's that person who's working on my issue, but lives in this city or this state, or works specifically at this organization, all of that is going to be available right at your fingertips. It's going to get smarter and better as we all go in and build out our profile. So that'll be kind of a cool thing to see. But we're going to be telling you more about this in the coming days, and it's coming to you. We're hoping and planning for February. So keep your eyes and ears out. All right, let's move forward. I think I got one more before we move along. Oh yeah, this is an important one for y'all. Hopefully you've heard this. We are sold out of early bird seats, I'm afraid to report, but we are headed to Denver in October, and we would be delighted to have you with us. And for now, I can say that because we still have some seats to sell. But if you want more information, you're going to go to comnet25.org and see Kareem's beautiful handiwork. He's starting to build out the page there for all of us. And we would be excited to have you all with us. All right, let's go forward. I think this last one is where I get to introduce Leo. Now, the good news is y'all are here, so chances are you kind of got the offer on hand, but I suppose maybe it's my job to explain, like, why are we having a conversation about curiosity when we all do communications work? Like, what the hell does that have to do with our jobs? And I would say it has everything to do with our jobs. All of us who are in the communications business, working at social good organizations, are charged with seeing a better tomorrow. And the way you get there is by asking questions, what if, and unleashing your imagination. And that is what Leo is expert in. So we've had the great good fortune of getting to work with him a little bit. As I mentioned earlier, he was with us in Kansas City. So maybe for a few of those, this is a reprise. You've seen this before, but for most of you, you are in for an enormous treat. He is a lovely human being, first and foremost. but he is the leader of Abound Innovation. You can see that up on here. His title is kind of cool, Chief Innovation Igniter. He carries over 55 patents. He's earned them over his career. And maybe the most important thing is Leo leads with fun, which is something I believe deeply in. We're going to be better to each other when we're having a good time. So we're going to spend the next little while with him. Before we do that, and forgive me for not doing this up at the top, but maybe you saw the note I shared with a whole bunch of y'all yesterday, just remembering our friend Cecile Richards. If you don't mind, my friend Kareem is going to put into the chat a link to the keynote that she gave at ComNet 18 out there in San Francisco at the Curran Theater under some pretty extraordinary circumstances. She will be missed. She was both an amazing leader, an extraordinary communicator, and an even better human being. And so if y'all had a chance to visit with her or know her a little bit, some of us in Slack are sharing photographs from that day, but invite you to do that. With that, why don't I turn it over to Leo, and he's got this really nifty set and gear going, so you're going to get a really lively, cool, interactive thing, and we're going to be putting you to work a little bit. So be prepared to be in the chat, sharing information and ideas back with Leo, and there's even going to be a little something for y'all to download. And then a reminder, finally, at the end of this, we will set aside about 30 minutes. Leo's been kind enough to say he's going to set aside time for y'all. So we will give you a link. It'll show up in the chat for us all to meet in a separate Zoom meeting. So that format where we can all chit chat with one another. All right, gang. Have fun. I'll see you soon. Oh, and thank you. Sorry, I keep doing this, but Kelly Sanchez offering ASL services, and just want to shout out and give her some love and appreciation and gratitude for making it easy for everybody to be included. All right. With that, Leo, I promise. Why don't you go ahead, man? I'm going to turn myself off.
All right. Hey, everyone, let me just get my tech going here and we will get going. All right. Someone say you can see my screen and we're going to start talking about curiosity. Type in the chat. Let me know. I want to make sure you can see it. All right. Thank you, Cassidy. Okay. So for today, a couple of things that we'll need to get started. The first thing is you're going to need some writing tools or your fingers because team, if you can throw in the link to the worksheet, I'm going to put you to work because it's good to talk about curiosity, but I want you to do curiosity as well. So you'll need some writing tools, or you can print it out, or you can use an interactive PDF. So thanks for throwing it in there, Tristan. Second is, please participate and engage. I've already seen the chat fall over here. So please participate and engage as I ask you things. And finally, I hope you're coming curious. I actually did see some folks say that they're curious today. So that's great because you're on a workshop on curiosity. All right. So I'd love to know who would describe them as a curious person. So if you can just type yes in the chat, that will be your virtual hand for me. Who describes himself as, okay. We got some curious folks in the room. All righty. All right. I'm going to put you all to work. Okay. So I'm going to show you a picture on the next slide. And I just want you to observe what's going on. I'm going to give you about a minute to look at this photo. All right. So here it is. I just want you to look at this photo. Going to give you a minute. And I just want you to see what you notice or, think about, or perhaps what you're curious about. All right. So minutes on the clock. Thirty seconds to go. Okay. I want to know from you, was anybody curious about this photo? Type in the chat. Yes, I was. Me. I like Lily with the YES with spaces. Manual scavengers. Yep. Okay. Was anybody curious about why the man was in the water? Of course, yes. All right. So what do you think he was doing there? What do you think that guy was doing in the water? Type in your speculations in the chat. I want to see. He looks concerned. He's posing. Chief Mudpap. Hiding, working, fell in. Hiding from the police. Dropped his cell phone, making a statement. I won't be able to see all this. Taking a swim. AI. Fixing a water pipe. fell in a sinkhole, failing to fix a pothole. Okay, I'm gonna go back real quick so we can look at this photo one more time. Okay, so actually, someone wrote, I think, fixing a water pipe. That's exactly what he was doing in there. They had a water pipe burst. This individual jumped in there. That's why they dug up the thing. And that's why, if you look closely, there's construction tape. The police officers that are driving by, it's just the photographer who was there just happened to snap it because it was sort of an interesting thing. But that's why he was there. He was actually fixing a pipe. But it is fun if you look at his eyes because they look a little fun, right? Looking at that cop. All right, so thanks for playing. All right, so let's talk about the journey today. This is what we're going to talk about. We'll talk about what the foundations of curiosity is, and then we'll talk about some challenges because there are things that get in the way of our curiosity. We'll talk about some benefits. I will share with you some examples of curiosity in action in business. I will teach you the process to curiosity, and I'm going to give you, I think, hopefully 3 tools, if not 2 tools. Normally I have more than this, but we have an hour today, so we'll see how far we can get with that. All right. So let's talk about curiosity. What is curiosity? Are any of you curious about curiosity? I mean, I am, even though I talk about curious, I'm still curious about curiosity. Here's how it's defined. It's a eager or strong desire to know or learn something. Curiosity is an eager or strong desire to know or learn something. So when you really want to know something, you're like, oh man, I want to know this. That is you expressing curiosity. It has to come from within. It's also described as information seeking. So when you're looking for information, you are being curious. You're expressing curiosity. It is also, I love this phrasing for this, is the pain of not knowing. Have you ever had the pain of not knowing something? You're like, oh man, I want to know it so bad. That's curiosity being expressed in you. It is also intrinsically motivated and not extrinsically motivated. So in other words, nobody can force you to be curious. It has to come from that inner desire, that inner drive from within yourself. You can't be like paid, your boss can't go tell you to be curious and then you're curious. It can't come from an outside source. It has to be from within your heart that you want to know. You have that eager, strong desire that you want to know. So it's an intrinsically motivated thing. We are born curious, right? So what is a child's favorite question? Type in the chat. What's a child's favorite question? Why? Why? Yes. Yes. And by the way, if you're wondering why there's a U in favorite, I'm Canadian. We put U's in some of our words. All right. So there we go. All right. So yes, you got it. Why? Why? Children love asking this question. So I want to share with you a few statistics about children. So from the ages of 14 months to 5 years, they ask an average of 107 questions an hour. 107 questions an hour. That is a lot of question asking. Second is girls age 4 ask a question on average about every 2 minutes. Every 2 minutes. So every 2 minutes are asking something new. It's actually something like 1 minute and 56 seconds, but I'm averaging it to 2 minutes. Third is that questions are asked either between 100 to 390 questions daily from the ages of 2 to 5. So it has quite a big range, but that is still a lot of question asking. And between the ages of 2 and 5, children ask an average of 40,000 questions. 40,000 questions. It's a lot of question asking, right? But something happens. After the age of 5, questioning drops off dramatically. By the age of around 11-year-old, most children have actually stopped asking questions altogether. And this kind of makes sense because they're making sense of the world, right? From that age, from 5 to 11, they've learned a lot. They're asking thousands of questions all the time. So they're making sense of the world. And so they're stopping to ask because they've learned things, right? That some of those knowledge gaps have been figured out. But this is what happens. Let's talk about challenges. I know that was a little bit dramatic, but I think it's a sad thing when we lose our curiosity when that question asking stops. So what gets in the way? Because something obviously happens. We've been taught that curiosity is bad. We've been taught that curiosity is bad. We've heard phrases like this: curiosity killed the cat, right? Curiosity has killed the cat. And so that doesn't sound very good. We don't want the cat to die. So, like, if curiosity is the reason for that, then, we should stay away from that. We also have examples that curiosity leads to trouble. So, if you remember when I was growing up, there was a book called Curious George. And Curious George was this little monkey who was curious. And so what happened was he would explore his curiosity and he would often find himself in not great situations. And so his kind of like his owner, the man with the yellow hat, had to go and save and rescue him from those things. So we have this idiom, curiosity killed the cat. Now we have this book that, Curious George is always getting himself into trouble. We're seeing it all around us that curiosity isn't good. And also, sometimes we're told not to ask questions. We're told not to ask questions, whether that's at school or at work, right? Have you ever heard that from a boss or a leader? Oh, don't ask any questions. We need to get to work. Or have you ever heard it at school? I actually read an article this morning where they did a research study, and it was actually quoted that a teacher said, "Oh, it's not time for questions right now. We need to learn." Like, what? So we're told not to ask questions. We're taught that it's bad. The second thing is we do not have time for curiosity. Like we don't. The number one killer of curiosity is busyness. If you're to find yourself in a train station like that, everything's blurry, right? You're moving so fast, you have no time to be curious. And when busyness increases in our life, this is what happens. We see less. Like, you literally see less, right? It's the difference of like driving down a freeway versus walking around in the neighborhood. You literally will see less because when you're driving down, let's say you're driving, we know we won't, but 100 miles an hour down the freeway, you're not going to see a lot of stuff, right? So we see less when we're busy. And we also explore less when we're busy because we don't have time for it, right? Let's just say there was something that was really interesting. Well, you probably won't see it. And if you did, you're like, oh, I don't have time for that. I got to go. And all that results in us being less curious. So busyness is the number one killer of curiosity. The third thing is that we've become experts in our fields, which is a good thing, right? We've gained experiences, we've learned how to do things, which is great. And we're also perceived as experts from others. So while this is all well and good, it can also be kind of a catch-22 for us because sometimes when we're experts, we may be less curious. And the reason might be, why are we like that? Well, it's because we may value knowledge over learning. Knowledge over learning. So if I'm an expert, I don't want to be perceived possibly as someone that's asking a lot of questions, because if I'm like that, well, maybe Leo doesn't know so much. Why is he asking so many questions? Does he not know this? Right? Or we might value being the expert over being a beginner. And so it's kind of a hard look at ourselves. Would you be okay if people were like, why is that person asking so many questions? Let's say you're the CEO and you're asking tons of questions. Does that make you not an expert because you're asking? So because we're experts, sometimes question asking can perceive us as like you're not an expert in that field because you're asking too many questions. And fourth is that we've simply stopped asking. When we don't ask questions, we don't learn. Okay, as simple as that. And I'm curious if you know, what is the average number of questions an adult asks in a day? What's the average number of questions an adult asks in a day? I want to see it in the chat. Give me some of your guesses. Bethany says 5, 3. Oh, okay. These are low numbers. 3, 20, 16, 50, 20. Yep. 3 to 5. Y'all are pretty close. It's 6. An average adult asks 6 questions daily. This is a pretty far cry from the average of 100 to 390 questions in a day when we're between ages 2 and 5, right? So we've simply stopped asking questions. So these are the challenges. We've been taught it's bad. We're too busy for it. We've become experts and we've stopped asking. So let's talk about the benefits of curiosity, because why should we be curious anyway? Is there any kind of benefit to this? Here's a quote. I'm curious if you know who said this. We keep moving forward, opening new doors and trying new things because we are curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. Can you hazard a guess who said this? I love this quote. Steve Jobs. I'll give you a hint. Theme parks can be related to this individual. Yes, Disney. There you go. Walt Disney, right? Beautiful quote from him. You know, when we are curious, it leads us to new discoveries, is essentially what he's saying, right? It guides us, it leads us to new places, just like you're seeing in this image. How about this one? Much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Who do you think said this? Let me see. Oprah. Alana says, that's why I'm here. Love that. Bill Gates. It is a tech person, kind of related to like a fruit. Jobs. Yes. Steve Jobs. Yeah, I love this because this is almost saying that, hey, I followed curiosity and intuition. So I just kind of, went out on a limb to be curious, but then it became valuable for me later. So Steve had no idea or way to predict whether or not following that curiosity or intuition would be helpful. But he saw in his life that it was, it said much of, so it doesn't mean always, but a lot of it was true for him. So following our curiosity is very beneficial. All right, so first things first, curious people are happy people. So there's a lot of research that shows that curiosity does this for us. First of all, increases your positive emotions. Second, it lowers your anxiety. It also gives you more satisfaction with life. And fourth, increases your psychological well-being. So if you take nothing away from this today, if you want to be happier in your life, be curious. Explore that curiosity in you. Like, who doesn't want more positive emotions, lower anxiety, more satisfaction with life, psychological well-being? Isolani says, hurrah for curiosity. Yes, of course. So being curious makes you happier. So that if you don't take anything else, you'll be a happy person when you're curious and explore it. All right. Second, it leads to more creativity. So there was a 2019 research study that was concluded. And I'm not going to all the details, but what they found was an increase by 1 point on a 7-point Likert scale. So if it moved from like 5 points to 6 points or 4 to 5, just 1 point increase, it would actually result in a 34% increase in creativity. So just leaning into that curiosity, if that expresses itself in a 1 point on a Likert scale, you have 34% more creativity. Ooh, anybody want to be more creative? I do. Number 3. It leads to more innovative behaviors. There's a woman named Francesca Gino. She's a fabulous Harvard business professor. And she did a research study and she found this, that curiosity prompts led to the following: more constructive suggestions, less defensive reactions to stress, less aggressive reactions to provocation, and increased performance. So if you wonder why this is related to innovation, it has a lot to do with innovation because we have to collaborate when we talk to one another, right? So the ability to listen, to be able to give constructive suggestions when we respond to others, right? Maybe someone doesn't agree with you or that kind of thing. We're less defensive, right? Or we're less aggressive. We want all of that, and all of that leads to better performance. And then fourth, it actually does lead to better job performance. Francesca did another study and she found this: it leads to greater empathy. So when we're curious about others, we have more of that empathetic heart towards them, right? Because we know about their stories, we know about them. It reduces group conflict. Here's where I think y'all would like better communication because it increases open sharing and listening. And finally, it increases team performance. So there's a lot of benefits to what curiosity does for us. And I think as communicators, this slide is really important, right? We want to be empathetic towards the people that we communicate with, right? It's when we send messages, we want to make sure they receive it. And so empathy helps us to understand what they would need, how we can speak with them so it's received in a way that they want to hear, right? And we want better communication and team performances as well. So these are the 4 things: greater happiness, more creativity, increased innovation, and better job performance. All right. let's talk about some examples of curiosity in action. So, does anybody know who discovered gravity? Please type in the chat if you do. Newton, yeah, Newton. Yes, y'all got it. So here's the thing about this. It was Sir Isaac Newton. So he first saw the apple fall from the tree in his early 20s. And what was interesting about him was that he actually asked the question why? Like, why did the apple fall down instead of going up or even sideways? Which is a curious question to ask, right? Because back then nobody knew what gravity was. So he was like, why does it fall down and, not go all these other directions? And that actually led him, get this, on a 20-year exploration. So it took him over 20 years from the time he first saw the apple fall until he developed his theories on gravity that he published in 1687. And I want you to think about this. Bernard Baruch says this, curiosity, millions saw the apple fall, but Newton asked why. Right? It's true. So many people have seen apples falling from a tree, but Newton was the one to stop it and then actually take a 20-year exploration to figure out that why. Example number 2, the Polaroid camera. Does anybody know who invented the Polaroid camera? Please type in the chat if you want to hazard a guess. Kodak. I'm looking for a name of an individual, but I mean, Kodak was an individual too. Land. Oh, we got a winner there. Edwin Land. Exactly. Great job there. So here's how he developed this. So he took a picture like everyone else did, but he had maybe what people didn't have, an impatient daughter who was waiting. So she sees the photo being taken, and then she asked this. She asked why. Like, Daddy, why do we have to wait for the picture? That question from his daughter was what spurred Edwin Land to develop the Polaroid camera. Isn't that amazing? 3-year-old daughter. Finally, Velcro. First of all, does anybody know what this image is of? What the name of this plant is? Thistle. Love impatient daughters. This is called a cocklebur. And does anybody know who invented Velcro? No idea. That's there you go. The individual's name was George de Maistre. Okay, George de Maistre. And this is how he invented Velcro. So he was going for a walk in the woods. This was in 1948, just like anybody else. And he had his dog with him. He goes for a walk in the woods, and then he finds those cockleburs on his pants and his dog's fur. Which, this happens to all of us. You go through a walk in the woods, probably likely you'll get a cocklebur. But this is what else he did. He asks the question, why? Like, why are these burrs so difficult to remove? So here's what he did. He got a microscope and he put the cockleburs underneath his microscope, and he discovered that the cockleburs have a little hook and fastener type situation, which is how he invented Velcro. So he basically copied the design of the cocklebur because he looked at it under a microscope, and he took that hook and fastener part to invent Velcro. So for centuries, this was happening to people, but only George turned it into an opportunity. Anybody could have taken that cocklebur and stuck it under a microscope, but George is the one that did it. All right, let's talk about the process to curiosity. I call it the SEEE process, which with an extra E. All right, so here's the 4 parts to it. The first thing is that you will see something, and then you will engage with it. When you engage with it, you'll explore it, and then finally, you will enjoy it. So let's talk about this. So the first thing is see. Curiosity always starts with seeing something of interest, okay? And I like to say, what catches your attention? Think about this for yourself. What interests you? What are you interested in learning more about? And what makes you think, that's so interesting? I'm so curious about that. These are just some things to think in your mind about, what you're personally curious about, because this is individual and unique to you, okay? So it starts with seeing something of interest. And there's 2 kinds of seeing, reactive seeing and proactive seeing. So we'll talk about reactive seeing first. I call this catching curiosity. Okay, so I wonder if anyone has ever walked into a room and someone's wearing very strong perfume or cologne. Anybody like that? type yes in chat. You caught a whiff of this really strong aroma. Maybe it's in an elevator. You go in there and it's like sometimes it's good, sometimes it isn't, right? Yeah, the worst. Uh, so catching a whiff. We can do this with curiosity, and I call them curiosity whiffs. It's kind of the same thing. So this is how we catch curiosity. So for example, let's just say that a UFO appeared. That's a curiosity whiff. If you saw a UFO come before you, would you be like, I wonder what that is? I shall go investigate. Would you go off and see what investigate that? I mean, I would. I might be a little bit scared, but excited also, but I totally would, right? That's a curiosity whiff. And it kind of looks like this. So in our life, it's kind of like a heartbeat where, there's nothing interesting and then poof, something catches our curiosity and then, it's normal, and then something else catches our curiosity. It's kind of like this. So this is what catching curiosity can feel like. You need some sort of trigger, like a UFO flying by, and then you're like, oh, you go explore it. Proactive seeing is a little bit different. It's about stimulating your curiosity instead. So instead of you kind of just like waiting around, like, hope UFO passes by today, you actually go and do something about it. So you're not waiting for this thing to pass you. And it's making the choice to engage with it when you see it. Okay. It's an intentional choice. So that's proactive seeing. Now let's talking about engage. So once you see something, you actually need to make the choice to engage it, right? It's nothing's going to happen if you don't be like, I'm curious. I want to go, think what that is. So you have a choice to make. Once you see something, will you choose to engage it? And this goes back to if you're too busy, you probably won't because you don't have time, right? So we have to make the choice, the intentional choice that when I see something that triggers curiosity, I'm like, I'm going to go engage with that thing, right? And when you do, I want you to open your mind to it, right? Open your mind to possibilities of what you could learn from it and decide to learn. Be like, I'm going to learn about this thing because I am curious. For example, there's a yellow door in this image here. Why is it yellow? Would you like to know why it's yellow? Right? We have to make that choice to engage with our curiosity. The third thing we do is then we go explore. You go and explore your curiosity. And I want to give you a couple tips with this. Explore it all. Do all the things. Immerse yourself in the whole thing. Give yourself that permission to go explore. And you will get into flow. So if you're familiar with flow theory, it's when you're at your cognitive best, when time all passes. You remember when you were kids and you were playing outside, and you're supposed to go home at 5:30 for dinner, and then your mom's calling you because they're like, "Where's Leo? He's like, it's 6 o'clock. Where'd he go?" I'm not thinking about the time. I'm having fun. I'm playing. I'm in the flow. And when you explore curiosity, you get into flow. You lose all track of time, which is fun. And then finally, the third E is enjoy. Because when you pursue your curiosity, it does lead to greater happiness, like I said earlier. But this is what research shows. When you satisfy curiosity, your brain is flooded with dopamine. Dopamine is like your happy pleasure chemical in your brain. So when you do something that you're curious about and you learn about it, your brain rewards you and is like, Leo, good job. I reward you for being curious today. Here's some happy chemicals for your brain. So we actually get happy chemicals in our brains by satisfying our curiosity. It's a very enjoyable thing. I want to share with you one quick example when I went down the rabbit hole of my curiosity. This is one of my favorite stories about my own curiosity. Anyone familiar with the Rat-Tat-Tooey TikTok musical? Say yes if you've heard of this, or if you haven't, that's okay. Rat-Tat-Tooey is a fantastic film, by the way. So if you've never seen it, it's a Pixar film. It's great. But during the pandemic, TikTok created their own musical, which was insane. It's like the coolest story. So I didn't hear about it during the pandemic. I was a bit late to the game, heard about a year later. And basically what happened was this woman created a silly song about Remy, who's the main character of the movie, and she uploads it to TikTok. It's just a joke. And long story short, it ends up being on Broadway. Wayne Brady was in it, Adam Lambert, Andrew Bartholomew, like really big stars end up in this thing. So when I found out about this, I kid you not, I spent like 5 hours running down the Rat-Tat-Tooey TikTok musical rabbit hole. And it was like the greatest 5 hours of my life. I enjoyed it so much. And it actually led to a business outcome because it's a beautiful story of collaboration. And so I actually share about this in a collaboration workshop that I teach now. But it was the greatest exploration. I had so much fun. And I had no it was a Friday too. I even remember it was a Friday. And I just spent the entire day looking this thing up. It was beautiful. So if you haven't seen this, please Google it. It's on YouTube also. You can see the whole thing. But the story of this is amazing. So go check out Rat Tattoo TikTok musical. Okay, let's talk about tools. So we'll see if we can get to three. I can at least promise two. But let's give you a tool to help cultivate seeing. All right, so you will need, again, if you don't have the worksheet downloaded, Tristan or Karim, if you can put that in there just in case they don't have it, but you want to have this worksheet handy with you. And again, it's interactive, so you can type your answers into it, but you're going to need to use this worksheet. Okay, so we're going to today create your own curiosity adventure. I hope this sounds intriguing and exciting to you. Have you ever gone on a curiosity adventure? And this is what it's going to look like. So the first sheet in your worksheet is called Create Your Own Curiosity Adventure. And you will see some categories there. There's 6 categories. So places, skills, uh, culture, others, so on and so forth, like places. So I want you to right now is to write down in the different categories all the things that you're curious about in those categories. There's no right or wrong here at all. But this is just for you personally to explore what you're currently curious about. Okay. So make sure you have this worksheet and fill it out. So if you can print it, that's great. If you want, you can just type your answers. It will work as a PDF as well. So you can just type your answers, or you can also use your phone, whatever way. But I want to give you time right now, about 6 minutes, we'll say, to fill this out. And that other category is a free for all for you. So if there's other things you're curious about, feel free. Go for quantity here right now. I'm gonna put 6 minutes on over my head, and I'm gonna play some music for you. Now, here's what I'd like you to do. So now you have a nice list of different things that you've written down under each category. And what I'd like you to do is to review them. And as you're reviewing them, I want you to circle 3 to 5 things that you are most interested in of all the things you have written down. What's between 3 to 5 things that you find the most interesting from everything that you have written down? Give that a circle. Again, there's no right or wrong. Michael, from all categories. Yeah, so you're looking at the entire list of things you've written down, and you're just circling 3 to 5 things. And then now, what I'd like you to do is look at the 3 to 5 things that you have circled, and I want you to star just one thing. This is the thing you are most curious about from that short list. What's the one thing you are the most curious about? Give that a star. And type it in the chat. I would like to know. Once you have done that, start that one thing. I want you to put a date on the sheet when you're going to actually do this curiosity adventure. Okay, so think about a realistic timeline for you. So maybe the weekend's upon us very soon. Maybe you do this coming weekend. Or if there's a holiday coming up, but when will you actually do this? Put a realistic day on the calendar. Emily, if you're not able to come up with many things, that is okay. We're just getting you to do one thing. So just kind of doing a exploration of what you'd like to learn, and it's okay if it's not a whole lot of things. But the goal is just to pick one of them. So you actually will go on a curiosity adventure. And then finally, I want you to write down the name of an accountability buddy. So this accountability buddy is someone you're going to tell about this curiosity adventure that you're going to do. You're going to say, hey, I'm going to go watch the Rat Tattoo TikTok musical this Saturday, and Bob, you're going to make me do it. Right? So think about someone that you can tell. Maybe it's a spouse, a child, friend, loved one, colleague, whoever it is. Write their name down. And after today, you're going to go tell them you're going to go do this curiosity adventure on this day, and they will hold you accountable. All right, so I'm going to look. What are people doing? What are you going to explore? Future of social media platforms. Finding the best time to purchase airplane tickets. I think that's a good one for all of us. Cassidy, learning more about your great grandmother. Love that. Creating a culture of care for one another. These are great. Off-grid living. immigration, refugee support and resources, 60s and 70s rock and roll. So these are great. I love this. All right. Thanks for sharing them. Your homework, my friends, is to go on your curiosity adventure. And you know what? Tag me. After you go do it, tag me. I want to know. I want to know how it went. All right. Let's talk about the next tool. Oh, what was that like? And we're already typing some of these in. Outdoor adventures. I want to learn more about my native language, and I'm actually taking a class tomorrow. Rain, I love that. I love that very much. So this is a great exploration of for you just to see what's in your heart that you're curious about, and then the goal is to go do it, right? And I hope that you'll find like what Steve said, much of following his intuition and his curiosity turn to be priceless later on. This whatever that you do, it may be useful to your work. You just never know what that it might inspire. So I hope you enjoyed that. All right, let's talk about a tool to cultivate engaging. A tool to cultivate engaging. I call this I wonder. It's a tool to create curiosity. So the way this works is you choose a topic to talk about, and then you will pair up. And for this, I'm going to call on Tristan and Sean because they're going to be my live participants. They know that they're doing this, but they don't know what exactly they're going to do. So can we spotlight our two friends here? Okay, so I'm going to give them instructions, and they're going to be our test guinea pigs. Okay, so Sean and Tristan are going to have a I know conversation for about a minute, minute and a half. And the topic, and the way this is going to work, I'm not going to tell the topic yet. The way this is going to work is you're just going to go back and forth between yourselves with I know statements. So Tristan, you'll say I know whatever. Sean, you'll say I know whatever. Back and forth until I say stop. Does that sound good? Okay. So I'm going to reset my timer here. Your topic is turtles. I want you to talk about I know statements about turtles. Here we go. Kick us off, please.
I just want to warn everybody, Tristan won Jeopardy, so he knows a lot. I know that most turtles live a very long time. Tristan, what about you?
I know that turtles are amphibious. Well, most of them. Maybe I don't know that.
I think they're reptiles, but maybe that doesn't mean that they can't be. I think that's actually two different things. They're reptiles, and some of them are amphibious, but not all, right? Box turtles, you can throw them in a lake.
I know all
They're in
turtles
bad
have
shape.
shells. They all have shells. Kind of.
Yes, I know some turtles bite.
I know some people make turtle soup.
I know that if they're racing a rabbit, they win.
Um, yeah, I know most turtles are green.
Yeah, I know that my favorite character from Finding Nemo was the turtle, Crush, if I remember
Mm,
correctly.
yep, yep. I know when I was in elementary school, we had a turtle bus, and from the movie Master of Disguise, everybody would say, "Turtle, turtle, turtle."
I know that if there's little kids watching, they're wondering why we haven't mentioned the Teenage Mutant Turtles, the most famous turtles of all.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. End scene. Very good. Great job. Folks watching, what was that like? Y'all made this too funny. So you're just that was fun. Okay. Most of the time when this happens, if you're in an I know conversation with people, it's not fun. It's not endearing
Oh.
because y'all have just great personalities. But if let's say you're talking with a call, you're like, well, I know this. Well, I know this. It tends to be one-sided. All right. So
Those never happen in philanthropy and nonprofit
never
world,
happens.
though.
It never tends to be very one-sided. Okay, now what I'd like you both to do is have a I wonder conversation. So you're both going to say, I wonder about this about turtles. I wonder about this about turtles. So another minute and a half. One of you can kick us off.
I wonder why turtles live so long. Like, what is it that why they have longevity when so many animals, thinking of my puppy who's walking around in the background, doesn't have the same kind of lifespan?
Mhm. Yeah, I wonder why they evolved to have shells across so many of their species. Like, were they just easy to eat?
Yeah, like I wonder, like if the dinosaur version of turtles, were they like what was that like? What were those things doing?
Yeah. Um, I wonder um, how many continents turtles live on, like what their habitat
Ooh, that's a good
is.
one. I
Yeah.
wonder if they ever lived on Antarctica, maybe back in the Pangea days or something like that, or at least a an earlier version, right? A predecessor.
I
Uh,
wonder why their size can range so widely too. Like you can have
Oh
little
yeah, like
tiny ones
tortoises or
to
those big sea
gigantic
turtle. Like I
tortoises.
wonder why they're so big, and then you can get these like itty bitty. You go to the National Zoo. I think they have turtles like that big that are like, to your point, amphibious. Um, I wonder. And I know like snapping turtles. I think they eat fish, but I think most turtles are not carnivorous. I wonder why that is,
Hmm. I
or
wonder
omnivores,
how
or are they
intelligent.
omnivores? I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder how intelligent your average turtle is too.
I wonder how well turtles can see. Like, what is their primary sense that they rely on to get around and survive?
Hmm. Good question. And I wonder why they're usually amphibious. I don't know if we determine if they fully are, but why?
All
Yeah,
right.
I wonder if
Jesse.
all turtles have claws, even like the ones from from Moana or from Finding Nemo. I wonder if I haven't seen one in the wild, but I wonder if sea turtles have claws.
All right. Great job, Sean and Tristan. Thanks for playing I Know and I Wonder. All right. Folks on Zoom, did you notice any difference between the two conversations? And Sean and Tristan too. Did you notice any difference in the conversation that you just had?
I think for
I'm
me,
enjoying the chat right now. I'm sorry.
it makes you realize how much you don't know. Like when I was saying I know, I was like, I actually don't know that. And then when it was I wonder, there's just so many things to be curious about.
Yeah, and it was interesting because so my yes, and we didn't know that much, and what we knew was very limited. But when you say, I wonder, you certainly can find yourself in that rabbit hole thinking, oh my gosh, there's a whole bunch I could find out. Questions beget questions, right? And it was exciting because we were sort of playing off of one another and collaborating in a way that maybe we weren't when we were kind of talking at each other with the stuff that we knew.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you both. I appreciate your participation in this. Um, this is a simple tool and technique, but it is so very powerful because like you all saw, it opens up conversation. I was actually even curious about, oh, I wonder what they're going to ask next about. I wonder, I even was wondering what they were wondering about. And it engages people. It puts you on the same playing field. You're working together. And so it's a very, very powerful technique. So here's what I'd like you to start doing is to add these phrases in your conversations. You can do this one-on-one with individuals. You can do it with your teams, but start adding I wonder into your phrases, right? Let's lose the I knows if we can and replace it with I wonders. Sometimes we have to say we know, but when you're trying to invite curiosity, using I wonder really changes the game. The second thing is you can hold I wonder sessions. You can imagine the next time your team gets together and you have an I wonder session, you know, what what curiosity might that inspire? What problems would you start solving differently? Invite people to just come with I wonders and have a whole time around it. And third, hold I wonder conversations. Maybe what if with your next one-on-one with your boss, you had an I wonder meeting or your teammate, right? Like what type of possibility would ensue from that? So I want you to infuse I wonder into your life and start using I wonder more and more. It's such an inspiring, I think so. I think it's such an inspiring way to look at the world. It's like, oh, I wonder about this, right? And that invites others to join in the I wonders. Okay. So any thoughts in the chat before we move on here? And I see Adina wrote Sesame Street has a good bit that I love. I wonder what if, and let's try. I like that. I should watch me some Sesame Street. It's been a few decades, but I think I might want to watch it again. Erica says I really like the idea to hold I wonder sessions. Simple and obvious, but so important to do. Yeah. All right. All right. I know we're coming up on time, so I'm going to move us on, but thank you for your shares outs there. All right, so I'm gonna talk to you about the last tool before I end because I still want to give this to you. You don't have a chance to practice it, but I'm gonna give you some homework. All right, so it is the tool called 50 questions, and it's actually what it sounds like, asking 50 questions about a topic, any topic, because it really helps to ignite curiosity. And so you have the worksheet, so I encourage you to do this later. I'm going to give you the prompt. You are communicators. I would love to know what your 50 questions are about communication. Okay. and you're going to push yourself. I would encourage you to probably give yourself, I don't know, like 20 minutes for this, but I want you to push yourself to go for 50 questions and see what comes up from it. Okay. So it's a very simple tool. I learned this when I was a design student, and it seems hard. But if you push, you can get there. All right. And it also ignites curiosity, because when you've written a list of 50 questions, what I'd like you to do is to review the 50 questions that you came up with and then go explore the answers. You can explore all of the answers to all of them, or pick a few to go with and go from there. Okay. So 50 questions is a great technique to ignite more curiosity in your life. All right. So this is how generally you do it. You choose a topic, you'll write down your 50 questions. So you have a blank worksheet, you can do this. Go for 50. Here's some questions types you can ask: who, what, when, where, and how. All right. Those will help get you started. And then you'll want to review it and circle your favorites, and then star one and explore the answer for that. Okay. So please use 50 questions. Very, very powerful technique. Okay. So this is the journey we've taken today. We talked about the foundations of what curiosity is. And the only thing I want to remind you of is that it's intrinsically motivated. It must come from you. You cannot be told to be curious from someone else. It must come from your inner desire, that you have a strong or eager desire to know something. We talked about the challenges, right? Being too busy is one of the killers. We've been taught that it's bad. Sometimes our expertise can get in the way of that, right? And then we talked about benefits. The only one I want you to remember is that you're happier when you're curious, right? These all sorts of great benefits. We talked about the 3 examples, like Velcro, the Polaroid camera, gravity, and I just taught you the SEEE process, right? So you see, you explore it, or you engage it, then you explore it, and then you enjoy it, all right? And then you have 3 tools that you can take away with you today. Okay, so I want you to think about this as we close out, and I will be around for office hours, but how will you continue to cultivate your curiosity? Curiosity is a muscle like anything else. You need to build it to keep doing. What will you do next? Okay, so I want you to keep that in your brain as we close out today. And I have a free newsletter if you'd like to learn how to be indisruptible. That's what I call it. It's a free new. I talk a lot about innovation, creativity, and Lego. And so if you'd like that, there is a QR code that you can scan right there. And I'll throw the information, my contact information, in the chat real quick if you'd like to stay in touch with me. But I hope you found this helpful. And I also want to let you know I'm a LinkedIn learning instructor. I have 4 courses on LinkedIn. So if you have LinkedIn Premium, you can take any one of these courses for free. If you want to take these courses and you don't have LinkedIn Premium, you can message me and I can send it to you. So find me on LinkedIn and I can DM it to you. But I hope you enjoyed this workshop, and I'd love to know from you today, what are your takeaways? What are your takeaways? And I'll go back to the Indestructible newsletter if you want to grab that.